Today we are going to discuss, because previously we have taken so much class, right, on basics networking. So today I decided to start some basic interview questions. Because everyone is preparing for the interview. Maybe you are CCNA or CCNP, right? So you are going for an interview. So I just want to start something new for all of you, especially for those who are preparing for the interview, right? Either you have done CCNA or CCNP, but I will teach you today some basic topics, right, that is asked in any interview, right? I will give you some insight into those topics. The topics which I will discuss today, let me write it down. So the first topic will be very important topic, that is called PVR, and I hope you are aware of the PVR. PVR is asked in any interview, right? PVR is called policy based routing. So what is policy based routing? When we use the policy based routing in our network, right? This concept I will tell you today. Policy based routing, right? This is not network, this is routing. So the concept is very important that you should know, and you should practice as well. So all this concept you need to practice. So I will tell you not the theory, I will tell you the scenarios as well. I will explain the configuration as well, so that you can practice. And if you're live, you can ask your comment. Otherwise you can just comment me. If you have any queries, I will try to answer your queries, right? The first topic which I will cover today is policy based routing. Then the second topic will be, this is called IPSLA. This is also a very important topic, IPSLA. And the third topic which I will cover today is your floating static route. Okay, what is if interview, in any interview, if anyone asks you what is floating static route, so you need to explain them first of all what is static route, and then after static route, this is a new concept called floating static route. Okay, and the fourth topic which I will confer, that will from the security domain, but this is also called path monitoring. So path monitoring is also a very important topic, especially for those guys who are in security domain, working on Palo Alto firewall or any other firewall, right? They will ask you what is path monitoring and why we should configure path monitoring. And the fifth question is also from security, that is what is virtual system in your Palo Alto firewall. The time which I am taking around today is around 1.5 hours. It can be max 2 hours, but I will not try to cover. If any of the topic will miss today, then I will try to cover in the next class. Okay. So first of all, what is policy based routing and why we configure policy based routing? This is the important thing. So routing always prefer metric, right? It means that if we are doing a static route, then the metric of the static route is basically AD. Okay, AD is called administrative distance. For this videos, this topic, only those will able to understand who are doing CCNA, CCNP or working, right? For beginners also this will be helpful, especially those who have already done CCNA, CCNP or working in some organization. This topic will be fruitful for all of them, right? So static route works on AD, then OSPF works on E1 and E2 route, right? This is basically the metric of OSPF. It is cost, right? So either E1 or E2. Cost OIA, O. These are the 4 types of route that OSPF prefers, right? It all depends upon the metric of OSPF. So the metric of OSPF is cost. Okay, cost. So metric of EIGRP is basically K1, K2, K3, K4, K5. Okay, that is bandwidth, delay, load, reliability, and MTU. So these are the 5 factors by which we can change the EIGRP metric. Okay, and then the most important protocol among all is your BGP, right? So in BGP we have again the metric, various attributes of BGP is very important. If comment will come, then again I will teach you each and every protocol's metric as well in detail, not now. So the metric of BGP is basically your weight, local preference, okay, AD, AS path prepend, MED. So various type of attributes are there which are used for manipulation of BGP metric, right? So we will not go in detail today because today topic is different. So right now we will only focus on the PVR topic, right? So if on any router or firewall, right? On your router we can say the topic name is basically we say PVR on router, policy based routing on the router. It is called policy based routing. And on firewall it is called path monitoring. The concept is same. Okay, I will explain both part today only. It is called path monitoring in your Palo Alto firewall, because I have knowledge on Palo Alto firewall, so I will not try to make anything which I don't know or I'm not very much confident, right? So in Palo Alto it is called path monitoring. On Cisco router it is called policy based routing. So let me explain what is policy based routing, right? So that I will explain through one scenario. Okay, so why in policy based routing I will explain through scenario, right? So let's say we have the router, 2 routers are there, or let's say draw one simple diagram. On one router we have 2 ISP. This type of scenario you will experience, you will see in your company, right? And this type of approach is very much common, or configuration is very much common in your organization, right? So maybe you are on any call, P1, P2, P3, P4 call, and they will try to tell you, okay, do the configuration changes. So if you are not confident, you cannot do it, right? So try to make yourself available, right? So what I'm teaching you, right? If you are available, please ask your queries. Those who have joined recently, this is called policy based routing. This is very important for, especially for CCNP guys, because this is the topic of CCNP as well, and this is also used in your practical life as well, right? So let's say we have 2 ISP. One ISP is your Tata and one is your Bharti, and this is not related to your SD-WAN. So I am not talking about the SD-WAN, because the SD-WAN is concept is totally different. So we are talking about traditional network, right, where there is no SD-WAN. If the SD-WAN approach will come, then everyone will tear apart, then we have to start from the beginning, right? So this thing we are telling on the traditional network, that we have two ISP and then we have a LAN connectivity, we have a switch, L3 switch, then we have a L2 switch, and then we have users connected on the L2 switch. Now in the traditional routing, right, before SD-WAN, because SD-WAN works on active SD-WAN approach is always active. If you have two link, both the link will be active, means traffic will flow on both the link. The concept of SD-WAN is totally different. So I will not come on SD-WAN today, but if you will comment me, then definitely maybe after 2 or 3 months, because first of all I have to teach you the basic thing and then I will go in detail on SD-WAN as well. Not now, right? Because my focus is for basic thing, especially for your TCP, IP and all those things, and then Ccna and Ccnp, not on SD-WAN, right? So let's say you have Tata and Bharti, and the IP address configure on your Tata size is 1.1, 1.2, and the subnet mask is of /30. Same with Bharti. Okay, and then on the LAN we have one private IP configure. On the switch we have the same subnet IP we have taken from the private segment /27. On the VLAN, on the LAN switches, I will not talk about any specific VLAN. The VLAN is 1, so there is no configuration related to VLAN except the port are access port. All the ports are access port and they fall in the same VLAN 1, right? So let's say the IP will be 192.168.1.3. Better if you can do one thing, this change, I will change the diagram. So what I will do, I will remove this L3 switch and I will direct plug the cable from the router to the L2 switch. I will remove that L3 switch for now, okay, to make the diagram simpler. So 1.2, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, so on, right? Now, as per this scenario, this is working on active standby, means Tata is active and Bharti is standby. It means the traffic will come on this router and then this router will forward the traffic on this Tata link. Once the Tata link will fail, then what will happen? The traffic will fall back to Bharti, right? So traffic will be symmetric, means the outbound traffic and the inbound traffic will come on Tata. So there is no asymmetric routing in between, right? Now, what is the requirement? The requirement is, the problem is here, the challenge is in this case in traditional routing that we are paying the bills, right? We are paying both Tata and Bharti, but the traffic is always on Tata, means Bharti is sitting idle, there is no traffic on in, it means there is the RX and TX, the load is not on Bharti. So every traffic is going outbound and inbound, the traffic is going through Tata and coming back from Tata, right? And this is the issue because we are not using Bharti. Okay, so what we have to do? We have to share the traffic on Bharti as well. The requirement is that the customer will send you one mail and he is saying, divert my Facebook traffic or simply internet traffic on your secondary link. I don't want my internet traffic to be routed on primary. I want my internet traffic to be routed on secondary. Okay. So if you have routing knowledge, if you are good in routing, and let's say we have put two default route, I believe 3 users are there, so please ask if you have any queries or challenges in understanding, then I will explain maybe in detail. If you are not comfortable, please ask me question as well, right? So if you have put 2 default route in your router, once towards Tata, let's say Tata next hop is 1.1 and Bharti next hop is 2.2, and you know the AD value, right? So you have to put AD as well. This is the 10 which I have mentioned is basically this is your AD value. So what will happen as per this configuration, all the traffic will go via Tata, and once Tata will go down, and in this case I have to configure track as well, which I will explain what is track and how we configure the track. Not now, because we are on PBR, path policy based routing, but after this I can explain why we need to configure track, because if you don't configure track in your static router, in your static routing, then the traffic will not fail over to the secondary link. So it is mandatory that you should configure track as well, but track is my next topic, not now. Now the customer has told you that, okay, my name is Abhishek. Okay, Abhishek, you are good, you have done your configuration, but this is not what I want. I want my traffic to be routed on Bharti. So please do some additional configuration so that my traffic should route on Bharti. I don't want my internet traffic to be routed on Tata. This is the requirement from customer. So this can be achieved through policy based routing. If you know policy based routing, then we can easily do the configurations and you can route your internet traffic to your secondary ISP, that is Bharti. Now I will tell in detail what configurations is required, and if you have your own lab, I will whatever configuration I will write here, you can do the practicals and you can just comment me whether that is working or not, right? And then I will explain maybe in detail and I will answer your queries. I will try to tell you what part we have missed, why your configuration is not working, right? Now I will tell you one thing which I have missed here, right? That this is a private IP, this is the public IP, so NATing is always required in real life, right? So if there is no NAT, this will not work. Okay, so you need to configure NAT as well. Without NAT, it will not work, right? So NATing is always mandatory here. So NATing part I have not explained, and this is not the thing which I will explain today only in this call. So NATing is required, otherwise you cannot do the configuration. Now coming back, what config is required, right? So I will tell you step by step what config is required to achieve this. First of all, in PBR, whenever you configure PBR, there are 3 steps which you need to configure, right? The first step in PBR is your interesting traffic. Interesting traffic that you have to define. Okay, the interesting traffic, which traffic you want to route on Bharti, right? That is your interesting traffic. Now as per the customer, the requirement is internet traffic. You want all the internet traffic to be routed on Bharti. So the interesting traffic as per the customer is internet, right? Now for this, you know, you should have the knowledge of access list, otherwise you cannot configure your interesting traffic. So access list, you should know how we can configure access list. This is not again the access list class, because this is totally your preparation for the interview, right? So if you don't know access list, you cannot configure your interesting traffic. But the customer said you want to configure route internet traffic, so I will tell you how to configure access list. So IP access list extended if you are doing CCNA or CCNP or working somewhere, then you should know what I want to express here, right, in terms of the configuration. IP access is extended. Just give the name of your PVR. I am giving the name of, this is the name, right? This can be anything, but I am writing it, then in my configuration I am giving it PVR. That is called policy based routing. Then permit IP, right? Don't get confused. I can put TCP also, I can put UDP also, I can put ESP also, I can put GRE as well, and this will all have different meaning, right? If I put TCP, what will happen? If I will put UDP, what will happen? If I put ESP, what will happen? If I will put GRE, what will happen? And this can be asked in the interview, that if you are saying to your interviewer that I have given the statement permit IP, not TCP, not UDP, not ESP, not GRE, then you should know why you have given permit IP. Why not TCP? Why not UDP? Right? Why not ESP? Why not GRE? Right? Again, I am telling you that if you have any queries, do comment me. I will try to explain even now or maybe next class. If you ask me right now, I can explain you. Otherwise, in next class, if I will see the queries, I will try to answer all of your questions, whatever you have asked, right? So IP means everything, right? If I will give permit TCP, then only TCP traffic. If I will give UDP, UDP traffic. If I will give ESP, IPsec traffic. If I will give GRE, GRE traffic, right? For example, if anyone asks you, I want to route all my voice traffic, video traffic on the secondary path, then this statement is much in terms of the configuration, this is very nearest to your audio video, because your audio and video works on UDP, not on TCP, right? You should know the data works on TCP, your audio video works on UDP, right? Even I have uploaded 7 to 8 videos, especially on TCP IP. If you are not check, please go to the playlist section and see all the TCP IP videos which I have uploaded so far, right? So if the traffic is, let me write here, if the traffic is your audio and video, then it is much better to write UDP. If your traffic is data, then you should opt for TCP. IP means everything. Okay. Why I have written IP here? If anyone asks you why you have written IP here, you have to tell them that IP means everything. Your TCP traffic, your UDP traffic, your ESP traffic, your GRE traffic, every traffic will fall under IP. Okay, and as per the request, client has not told you to route your TCP traffic or route your UDP traffic. He told you to route internet traffic on the secondary link, right? That's why I have given IP here, right? As per the requirement, right? So permit IP, your subnet was 192.168.1.0. This is your network part. Your wildcard mask is 0.0.0.0, not 0, /24, 255. This is your subnet mask, and your destination is any. Any means anywhere, right? So anything, right? Destination can be anything, right? That's why I have mentioned permit IP 192.168. It means, this statement means traffic from 192.168.1.0 to anywhere, right? Now what to do? I have configured my access list. Now if I will not, I will let's say any, right? If I will mention TCP any equal to 23, TCP any equal to 22, it means telnet port, SSH port. So if you have knowledge of TCP IP, then you can change accordingly, right? But as per the scenario, I have configured an access list. In the access list, I have configured extended access list. I have defined my source. I have defined my destination, right? This is sufficient for in terms of the access list configuration. Now, the next part. What's the next part here? That I have to configure the route map. Route map is required in policy based routing. So in the route map, what I will do, I will the name of the route map. I will give the name of the route map, let's say PBR policy. And then in the route map, I have to match that access list which I have configured. So I will put one statement here, match IP address the name of the IP address was PBR, policy based routing. Okay, match IP address PBR, and then I have to define the next hop. So set IP next hop. This is the IP of your Bharti, right? So Bharti on the Bharti side, the IP was 2.1 and 2.2. So here I will tell if the traffic will match the ACL, then route that traffic to the Bharti next hop IP. That is your Bharti IP, right? Please check the diagram. The diagram which I have shown you initially, right? There was two ISP, 1.1 and 2.2, and 2.2 is your Bharti IP. So the set IP next hop IP is your Bharti IP, and then this is the configuration of your route map. This is your second important configuration which need to be configured on your router. So first of all, you need to configure your ACL, that is access list. The second thing which you need to configure is your route map, and the third is IP policy. IP policy, the name of your policy was PBR. The command line is, this is configured on your interface, okay, LAN interface. So here IP local is very important, IP local policy, and the name of the policy was PBR policy. So you have to put IP local policy, PBR policy. So three things you have to configure. First, your interesting traffic. Second is your route map. And third, applying the route map on your interface. Now, which interface? For that, I have to configure, I have to draw the diagram one more time to show you on which interface I have to apply this command. So let me draw the diagram one more time and show you on which interface you need to configure this PBR policy, right? So I have told you that the router is connected to L2 switch. The IP address on the LAN interface was 192.168.1.0/24. You have two ISP. One was Tata, one was Bharti. The IP address on the Tata side was 1.1.1.1. The IP address of the second IP is 1.2. The Bharti side IP address is 2.1 and 2.2. So as per this diagram, let's say if I am sitting here, my name is Abhishek Anand. So let me type it, Abhishek. I want to access internet. So on this router there is one important command, right? That is your debug IP policy. This command will tell you that your PBR is working or not. Debug IP policy, right? So debug will show you that whether your policy is working or not. Whenever you do debug, there is high utilization on your router, you always do undebug all. Once you have the sufficient information, just do you all, means you need to turn off your debug. That is very important. Don't enable debug. If you have enabled debug, after you have taken the required info, then turn it off through you all. You all means undebug all, means everything whatever you have initiated will stop, right? So the on which interface I have to configure, this was the question from my side. So you have to configure that last config you have to do on interface. You have to take your LAN interface, right? So on this LAN interface, the config will be the IP local policy and then your policy name. That was PBR policy. Not on WAN, on your LAN. Why on LAN? Why not on WAN? Because the traffic from the Abhishek laptop will come on this router, hit this interface, and on that interface there is a policy applied, and that policy will tell you either to route towards Tata or Bharti. Now you have done every configuration, everything you have done. Now it is the most important thing that you need to test the result, right? Whatever you have configured is working or not, because the client will not ask you the configuration. He will just ask you, okay, show me the result, because no one will ask you what you have done, why you have done so far. The client is non-technical person, right? So he will not ask you or not challenge you about your configuration, whatever you have done. He will simply ask you, okay, show me the result, and if the result is good, he will appreciate you. If the result is not good, then maybe he will condemn you as well, right? So before approaching your client, you have to test it on your side, that everything whatever the customer was expecting from me, I have done it. And then you can ask your customer, okay sir, I have done the configuration, because this is what I have done since last 17 years, right? Before approaching your customer, always test from your side, do whatever testing you have to do, and then you can approach your customer on mail or on, let's say, Teams, and so okay, and ask them, okay customer, I have what was your requirement on mail, I have already done the configuration, please see, check from your side that everything is working as per your requirement or not, right? Now the testing is very important, right? You have done your configuration, but now what you have to do, how you have to do your testing. For testing, on your router, just run one command, debug IP policy. This is very important. Debug IP policy. Before starting the test, okay, just run one command, and that command is this command, debug IP policy, right? This policy will tell you that your policy is working or not. Whenever you are doing any PBR configuration in your real life, and if your PBR is not working, right, there is one command, debug IP policy, that will tell you whether your policy is working or not, right? So ask your customer to trace internet, means trace Facebook IP from your laptop, Google IP from your laptop. Tell your customer, okay sir, now share your screen, trace facebook.com, trace google.com, and when he will trace it, right, you will see that here on the router you will see that routing via, it will mention here routing via PVR. It means the traffic is not going via the static route. I will explain here, right? The message will come routing via PVR. Means on the router we have a static route, and a static route is saying the best path is towards Tata, but still your traffic is routing towards Bharti, because PVR is always preferred over static route or any routing. Whenever PVR is configured, then PVR will override your static routing concept. So whatever you have learned in your static routing means, let me rub it down and tell you what will happen. So on your router, let me write it down. There are two default route. Let me write down the syntax. IP route. This is your network. This is your mask. This is your next hop. Tata next hop with track. And the second next hop is, again there is one more route here. This is your second route. Again your subnet mask. The next hop is Bharti with AD. Looking this configuration, right, everyone will tell all the traffic, because here default means everything, right? So they will tell you, okay, all the traffic will go through Tata, because the Tata static route, primary static route, the ID is 1, the secondary static route, the ID is 10. So 1 is best. So traffic will always follow the Tata path, inbound and outbound, right? But this will not happen in case you have configured your PVR. So first, even before your routing lookup, the PVR will, the router will check the PVR. The firewall will check the PVR. Again, I will tell you the firewall thing as well. The firewall will think the PVR, policy based routing, and if there is a policy based routing configured, then the traffic will follow policy based routing. It will not check the routing table. So if you have two default route, right, but in PVR, as per the PVR policy, the traffic should route on the secondary, then the router will route the traffic on your secondary link. It will not check your routing table, right? Because PVR will define that this traffic need to be routed on your secondary link. Even you have two route, the traffic will not go through the secondary, because as looking at this configuration, what will happen in case Tata will fail, then only the traffic should route to Bharti. But if you have configured PVR, so again I am saying, don't believe me, even 1%, right? Configure this on your router. If you are doing your Ccna, Ccnp, make the lab, try it in your lab, and do comment me whether it works or not, right? So what is the important thing? That PVR, if there is a PVR, it always comes first in your routing table, right? Now this approach, the same approach in the firewall, we say path monitoring. In firewall, Palo Alto firewall especially, we don't say it's PVR, we call them path monitoring. The concept is same, right? For example, we have a firewall here, and on the firewall we have two ISP connected, again Tata and Bharti. The basic concept is same everywhere. So if you are good in your routing, then you are always good on the security side as well, right? The same approach I am doing on your firewall, Tata and Bharti, right? So on your firewall, on your VR, virtual router is there on the firewall, virtual router, right? Virtual router means on your firewall you can do multiple configurations of virtual router. For one client, you can say, okay, your virtual router is 1. For different client, we can say virtual router 2. For third client, we can say virtual router 3. What will happen if you have multiple virtual router? You have the same subnet configure in all this virtual router, and this will not overlap. So this is the concept of virtual router, just like your VPN, your MPLS. The same concept is in the firewall, that if you configure virtual router, it means the traffic will, this all traffic are different traffic, they will not intercept with each other because we have configured multiple virtual router, means multiple instances of routing table on your firewall. Coming back to your just give me 1 minute. Coming back to this diagram again, so this is the same config here on the firewall as well. So on the firewall also we have in our VR, in your virtual router, you need to configure 2 routes. Towards your Bharti, towards your Tata and Bharti. AD you have to put in your firewall as well, right? So what I always tell my student, that if you are going for security, first of all you need to build your routing and switching concept, then only you should go to the security domain, right? Because previous configuration is same with respect to routing. In router also I have configured 2 route, in the firewall also I have configured 2 route, right? Here the NAT will be different in terms of the configuration, the policy will be different. For that you need to study your security, right, your firewall. But for basic routing, the concept is same on router, on load balancer, on firewall. Every concept is same in routing and switching, right? If the router says OSPF, in OSPF cost is same. Again in the Palo Alto firewall or any firewall where you configure your OSPF, the concept is same, right? So basic routing and switching and TCP/IP is mandatory. Don't jump into your security domain, right? First of all, build your routing and switching, right? Take 2 or 3 months, build your routing and security, right? And then move to the security side. Don't go without any knowledge on the security domain, because maybe you will get job but you will not prove yourself, because the basic knowledge, whatever is required, you don't have those basic knowledge, right? So here again I have configured 2 default route. So in Palo Alto firewall there is no concept of IPSLA, right? So I cannot track my ISP, right? So what I have done, what in the VR, in the routing, there is one concept of path monitoring. So in the Palo Alto firewall you have to enable this path monitoring. Just you need to enable. Once you enable your path monitoring, then it will ask you your source IP. You put your source IP as your interface IP, that is 1.1.1.1. Then it will ask you your destination IP, right? Destination IP can be anything, your next hop as well, even your Google IP. And then it will ask you the frequency, means in every how many second I will ping this, let's say 10 second. timeout, it will ask you, you have to define it here on the firewall. Let's say 15 seconds, everything is in second, right? So what will happen that in the VR, this track will be configured, this path monitoring will be enabled on the primary link. So this interface will initiate ping to the Google IP every 3 seconds, every 10 seconds as per this configuration, and whenever there is a timeout, the traffic will fall back to the Bharti. So this PBR here in the this path monitoring, this is a concept of not PBR, this is concept of IPSLA, the tracking. So here I have to enable path monitoring by configuring I cannot configure IPSLA. So on the Palo Alto firewall I have enabled path monitoring. Even on your Palo Alto firewall I can configure policy based routing PBR to say in your Palo Alto firewall the concept, let me write it down so that you will not get confused. If you are new you will get confused. In router the concept is policy based routing and the second is your IPSLA. On your firewall the concept is again the policy based routing, your firewall becomes policy based forwarding. The concept is 100% same. Whatever you have learned in router, that policy based routing, here we call it as PBF, policy based forwarding. I am talking especially for Palo Alto. Don't get confused. This is for Palo Alto firewall because I have knowledge of Palo Alto firewall only, right? And IPSLA is called path monitoring. So on the router I configure IPSLA, on your firewall I configure path monitoring. Now if the PBR is clear, so the next topic is, first of all I will tell you the floating static route. Floating static route, because this is also asked you in the interview, what is floating static route and why we configure floating static route. Coming back to the same topology, one router, two ISP, one L2 switch, user, so you have configured your router, you have configured your switch. Yeah, there is a playlist for Ccna as well, Rahul. You can check in the playlist section. There are playlists for Ccna as well. So this topic which I am explaining right now basically is of Ccna topic as well, right? So in Ccna, anyone will ask you what is your floating static route. So I am explaining that. Before this class, before this, I will explain you what is policy based routing. So if you check my, I just wait for Rahul. Let me complete this topic and then I will take 5 minutes and I will explain each and every queries, whatever you will ask, right? So I have told you on the router, I have configured two routes, right? Yeah. In the router, I have configured two routes, right? One default route with track. Track I will just explain after this why track is required. Just because track is always required. Without track, you cannot configure your policy based failover, right? Now, what is floating static route? If anyone will ask you that why we configure floating static route, what is floating static route? The route which is having AD, the static route which is having AD in the configuration is called floating static route. Now, Now Rahul, you are there, you have asked your queries. I will ask you one queries from you. Let's say we have two route configure on your router. I have already write the configuration. Now tell me, on your Cisco router, if I will ask you in show IP route, do I will see both route in my routing table as per this configuration or single route? Rahul, are you there? Or anyone who is right now watching can just let me know whether you will see in show IP route two route or just one route as per this configuration. The first route, the config is with IPSLA. The second route is configuration with AD. Please comment whether you know or you don't know. Just mention it on chat, yes or no. Not sure. Okay. I am new to Ccna. You know static routing? I believe you know static routing. What is static routing? So I have two default route in my router. One default route I have configured through track. That is your IPSLA. That I will tell you why I need to configure track here. That I will tell you again after this topic of floating static route. And we have one route with AD. So in show IP route, I will always install, the router will always install the best route. Okay, always install the best route. It means if we have 100 static route configure on your router, the least static route is having a AD of 1 and there are 100 routes. The router will always install the best route, means only one route will get installed in the router. Once this data link will go down, this route which I have configured with track is very important, which I will just let you know what is track, why we configure track here. Once this data link will go down, this route will be flushed from the routing table, means it will be removed from the routing table, and then your best route will be installed. This secondary route will be installed in routing table because that route become best route, right? So always the best route will get installed. And why this route is called floating static route? Because once it will be in the routing table, once it will be out of the routing table, the normal person always floats in the river, right? It will come up, it will come down, right? Same way in a static route, if there are 2 route configure or 10 route configure with AD, the route with AD, this is your AD, right? It will install in the routing table. When it will become the best route, it will be removed from the routing table. That's why it is called floating static route. Floating static route means that route will be added into the routing table or removed from the routing table. That's why it is called floating static route, right? So in a static route, floating static route, if anyone will ask you, and what I will tell you, all of you who is watching or who will watch, that in TCP IP, there is one book, TCP IP Part 1 and Part 2 by Jeff Doyle. Try to read this book. Okay, you will get all the details from this book. Jeff Doyle is very good book, right? That you can read. And this is very important that you should first read your basic thing before doing any practicals. Okay, so this book is very important, TCP IP Part 1 and Part 2 by Jeff Doyle. So if you are new to CCNA, just if you can buy this book or you can download this book, read this book. This is very important. This will at least boost your confidence, give you some basic knowledge, basic and advanced knowledge both for CCNA and CCNP. Now, I have told you that I will tell you three important things today. So the PBR I have already have discussed, policy based routing, and second thing I have discussed is your floating static route. Why the static route is called floating static route? I already just told you why this is called floating static route. Now coming back to the IPSLA, that is called IP Service Level Agreement. The full form is IP Service Level Agreement, right? Why IPSLA is configured in a static route? Why it is not required in any dynamic routing? Let's say if I have configured OSPF, if I have configured BGP, if I have configured EIGRP, if I have configured ISIS, I don't require IPSLA. But if I have configured static route without IPSLA, you will not do failover. So in a static route, IPSLA configuration is required. Now, why it is not required in your dynamic routing protocols? If anyone will ask you, you have to explain that in your OSPF, in your BGP, in your EIGRP, in your ISIS, there is a concept of hello and dead interval. So every routing protocols send BGP also send hello packet, even your HSRP, even your VRRP, all the protocols send hello to your to their peer. Okay, hello packets. Just when I meet someone, right, I say hello, I greet, hello, hi, how are you, right? Same way routing protocols send each other hello after a defined period, let's say 30 seconds. It all depends upon your protocol. And there is a dead interval. Dead interval means if I will not get response within a dead interval of, let's say, 130 seconds, this is for OSPF, what will happen? My neighbor cell will break down. Breakdown means if I have two paths, let's say same concepts, two routers, two links, OSPF configuration, primary and secondary. They are sending hello. If I am not getting response on this link, then what will happen? This peering will go down. Right? So hello is by design in dynamic protocol. Right? But in your static routing, there is no hello. Means what will happen? If there is no hello, what will happen? Now, again I will draw that diagram and I will correlate everything. Right? So there was two ISP. On same router, 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, 2.2, L2 switch, user connectivity, 192.168.1.0/24. Okay. Now, let's say EIGRP, I have configured. Just imagine I have configured EIGRP on this two link, Tata, Bharti. data is down, what will happen? This peer is sending hello. If you not get response from this IP, what will happen? Neighborship will be teared down automatically, and what will happen? The traffic will reroute to your secondary path, because protocols are sending to its neighbor hello interval, hello packets, right? Every protocols, whether it is EIGRP, whether it is OSPF, whether it is BGP, whether it is ISIS, whether it is RIP, every protocol send hello, and if I am not getting reply within a dead interval, that is a defined dead interval, definitely I can change hello into dead as well by using BFD. That is a quite complex topic. I will not explain today, but I can also change my hello and dead interval timing as well. If anyone will ask you whether you can change EIGRP, RIP, hello and dead interval, yes, I can change. In OSPF also I can change, right? By using BFD, I can change hello interval to the millisecond part, right? So the convergence will be quite fast. Even in your SD-WAN technology, by default, your BFD is enabled for faster convergence. By default, your BFD is enabled in your SD-WAN, right? I am seeing there are any queries so far that in dynamic protocol you have the hello concept, but in your static routing there is no hello. There is no hello. What it means? What is the problem? In your static routing, if there is no hello, what will happen? Let's say I have configured two route here, two default route. This is of course the primary best route, because this is having AD of 1. The lowest route is of AD of 40. But there is a problem in static route, and this is very much asked question in the interview for the Ccna guys, especially one. They will tell you, okay, write down the configuration, right? And even if you are doing your Ccna, Ccnp, everyone will tell you this is not the correct configuration, because what will happen? Even this link will go down. This interface is go down. They will set this interface, or there is physical issue on this interface. The traffic is routing on the primary path only. It will not fail over to the secondary path. Why? Because in a static route there is no concept of hello interval. Hello interval is always on your dynamic protocol. So for failing over to your secondary link, what is required? You need to configure track, you need to configure IPSLA. That I will tell you how I have to configure IPSLA, and once I will configure the IPSLA, how should I bind that IPSLA to my static route. This was told in firewall, in Palo Alto firewall, that this IPSLA in Palo Alto firewall is called path monitoring. Right, I have told you why we configure path monitoring, because in Palo Alto firewall or any other firewall, if we are doing a static route, not dynamic protocol, then we have to configure IPSLA, path monitoring. So if you are not configure path monitoring, then your traffic will not shifted to your secondary link. I see 4 users are there right now who is watching. Anyone configure IPSLA so far, or track you have configured for failover? Any one of you? Have you configured IPSLA? Just let me know. Rahul, I will tell you each and everything in last 10 minutes. Please wait. Okay. Now coming back to IPSLA configuration. IPSLA configuration. So this is configured everywhere. Whenever you see, check any router which is having the default route, you will check IPSLA configuration. Okay. So IPSLA configurations will be like this. Config T, IPSLA, you have to define any number, let's say 1. Okay. IPSLA number 1, it can be any number, but if the router has multiple IPSLA, then you have to check first. So IPSLA, if 1 is running on that router, then change to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that, right? IPSLA, then you have to define type. This is basically a ping. You know ping, ICMP. This is just a ping. So what I will type here? Type ICMP echo. The command what I am writing here without any slip, right? I have not written somewhere. Why I am writing it fast? Because it is of 17 years of experience, not 1 or 2 years. It is of 17 years of experience, and if you have configured it on daily basis, then you can also write it without any issue, right? Whenever you go in interview, if you are pursuing Ccna or Ccnp, because the standard quite high now in your Ccna as well, they will ask you this type of questions, right? So they will give you a pen and paper, or they will ask you to share your screen and tell you to write the command as well, right? If you don't have any practical exposure, you cannot write it down, right? So type ICMP echo, then you have to define your source IP. The source IP was 1.1, so I will mention this is your Tata IP as per the diagram, right? So this is the Tata IP. So what I am doing, I am creating one ICMP packet on my router with a source of 1.1. Then I have to define the destination IP, that is Google IP 8.8. Means I am creating one ICMP packet, right? If you know ICMP, there are multiple types of ICMP. For example, echo request, echo reply, TTL exceeded. The multiple types of requests are there in ICMP. There are 11 or 13 requests, right? Then I will mention type, frequency, means in how many seconds this ping will go. Let's say 3. Timeout, let's say 15 seconds. So in every 3 seconds, what will happen? This source IP will send 8.8 Google IP 1 ping response. Okay, ping. I hope you are clear on the ping side, and it will wait for the response from the Google side, right, on your router. So this is the first thing. I have configured IPSLA. There are 3 parts of the configuration. The second part is IPSLA. This is again in config T. IPSLA 1 schedule start time now. Live forever. It means start your IPSLA now and continue it lifetime. And the second step is track 1 IPSLA one, reachability. It will check the reachability of the track. Once you configure your IPSLA, then check show IPSLA. It should be up on your router, and then you need to configure your static route. Whatever static route you have configured, configure your static route, give your next hop, and then track number was 1. Configure your second static route, the Bharti one, with AD of 20. Now the importance of this track 1, if there is a ping response from your router to the Google, if the response is coming, then this route will remain in the routing table. If the response is not coming, if your ISP is down or there is some issue, what will happen? Failover will occur and the traffic will route to the secondary path. So this is a concept of your IPSLA. IPSLA is the most important thing. You need to configure everywhere whenever you have the static route. Now Rahul, if you have any query, please ask, I will answer. 5 minutes of time before I move to the next topic. So in my playlist, there is 5 or 6 live class on TCP IP part 1 and part 2. Please watch all the topics of TCP IP. This is TCP IP playlist on my channel. This is available in live class. So far I have taken 6 class on, this is my 6th class. So 5 topics are of TCP IP, around 2 hours. You should watch every TCP IP playlist, right? And this is the first class which I have taken mainly for Ccna, Ccnp student, especially for those who are preparing for interview. So today class also I have discussed few topics like PBR, then I have discussed floating static route, and I have discussed IPSLA. Okay, this topic I have already discussed. Any queries now you can ask. Anyone is there? Any queries? The next class which I am planning, I don't know how important it will be, but I am planning for subnetting. Subnetting I am planning. So if you are interested in subnetting, please join my next class. I will try to take this class maybe on Friday or on Sunday, and I will try to start subnetting from basics to the advanced part. In just 2 hours, I will try to cover the whole subnetting concept, right? So please comment me whether you are interested in subnetting or not. So coming back to me, let me tell you something in now switch to Hindi. So मेरा नाम अभिषेक आनंद है. Let me explain you about myself first. experience of around 17 years. Mainly on SD-WAN, routing, switching, security. Security means firewall, load balancer, cloud, wireless, not detail in wireless, but you can say 30 to 40%, not more, and basic of automation. My USP is packet capturing, especially on Wireshark, and analysis of the packet capture. So I have taken a few classes on Wireshark as well. Especially if you are comfortable, please watch TCP/IP episode 5. This is very important class. If you have missed this class, TCP/IP episode 5, please watch it. Available on playlist part. This is very important, where I have shown you how to capture the traffic on Wireshark and how we can analyze the packet capture. This is very important, right? And on the playlist part, because I have started the class, I believe 1 month back in August, I have started my live classes. But on my channel, which my channel name is Anand Network Tutorial. It is very long, routing and switching, security. Okay, but there are multiple videos available. Ccna, Ccnp, securities, SSL, F5. Multiple videos are already available, right? You can go and watch, right? If you need any help, this is my mobile number. You can ping me on WhatsApp. You can talk to me, I will help you, right? If you want to study, let me know. If I can help you, definitely I will help you out. Okay, so far all these topics are there in the playlist part and uploaded. So today I have tried to cover some basic things about policy based routing, about your static route. But if you have the basic knowledge of CCNA, then only I hope आपको समझ में आया होगा कि मैं ये जो बताया मैंने, तभी आपको समझ में आएगा जब आपके पास कुछ बेसिक नॉलेज होगी. अदरवाइज आपके पास दिक्कत आई होगी समझने में. इंग्लिश मोड इसलिए मैंने सेलेक्ट किया क्योंकि जब आप इंग्लिश में एक्सप्लेन करते हो तो आपकी व्यूअरशिप ज़्यादा होती है, बहुत लोग आपको समझ पाते हैं. हिंदी में लिमिटेड होती है, लेकिन अगर रिक्वायरमेंट अगर हिंदी की होगी तो मैं अगली क्लास हिंदी में भी ले सकता हूँ, उसको कोई दिक्कत नहीं. और कोई क्वेश्चन राहुल आप हो या ड्रॉप कर गए हो? मैं तो हूँ अवेलेबल अभी 5 मिनट. कोई क्वेश्चन हैं राहुल आपके? और मेरे चैनल को आप लाइक करो और सब्सक्राइब करो. लाइव क्लासेस कंटिन्यू रहेंगी, वो कभी मैं छोड़ूंगा नहीं, क्योंकि मेरा काम यही है कि जो बंदे को बेसिक नहीं आता है उनको बेसिक सिखाना। तो बेसिक अगर आपका क्लियर होगा तो आपको दिक्कत नहीं आएगी। थैंक यू, और मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट क्लास में, जो कि होगी मे बी ऑन संडे और ऑन रक्षाबंधन। द टॉपिक विच आई डिसाइडेड इज सबनेटिंग। ओके, थैंक यू, बाय।